So something that Ibrahim that I found very interesting is especially for us when we become senior professionals, we have this assumption that our title or what we've done in the past is enough for us to get a job. So we don't do much effort on actually going into the details on marketing ourselves or talking on the more critical parts. We assume that people know. So I remember, I went in for an interview and some time back, and as I was reflecting over the interview, which I was not successful in, I realized that I couldn't, or I wasn't prepared to answer a lot of the more detailed questions that were being asked. So I assume that when I say that I've handled recruitment or I've handled talent acquisition, I've handled performance management, you understand all that I have done. And when you keep asking me about the finer details, I wasn't prepared for that. I'm going to say I have done it, not that I have not done it, but I wasn't prepared to at that moment to answer what are the step by step guide processes to be followed. And this is something that I learned with Haitham, and I'm going to say I have my notes on what I would be talking to an interview before I met Haitham and did the first two sessions, and I had conversations with him, and the notes that I had after I spoke to him, and the conversations that I had with him. So there was a massive difference, and I think that's very critical for leaders because most of us, or at least I don't want to make an assumption about other people, but as far as I am concerned, that was something that I was lacking in, and that was something that I learned over here. The other thing is that we assume that just because we have a title or we belong to an organization, people will come flocking to us, and unfortunately that does not happen, or it didn't happen in my case, and I had to really make an effort, and that is where this program helped me. So I was telling this to Haitham as well. I said, rather than saying that this program is for people who are looking for jobs, we should say this program is for people who want to understand themselves. People who want to explore themselves, who want to understand themselves, who want to market themselves, who want to see what value they have and what value they can offer to someone else. So you broaden the scope of this program to all these people because it's critical for them. So irrespective of whether I found a job or no, I want to complete the program simply because I need to understand the other aspects of it. So the aspects of how do I speak about myself, how do I make people realize the value that I bring to them, how what I've learned from the past and what I have to offer on the table. So these are the things that I've learned from this program, and I'm grateful for this program. So it has been an eye-opener for me, and it has given me a lot of insights. I didn't have a proper stable job for quite some time. I was doing consultancy assignments, and I was looking at a full-time assignment. And what I realized, or what I was doing wrong, was I was doing actually nothing. I was assuming that people would look at my profile and would come and approach me. So actively, I was doing very little to actually be out there in the market and to present myself, in the presence of maybe thousands of other people who are the HR professionals who are there. So that was a big thing that I was lacking. And what had happened is that in the past, people had approached me and I had got opportunities. So I thought, okay, the same thing is going to happen this time. So yes, I was moderately active on LinkedIn, but beyond that, I was not doing much. And this program helped me to realize that that's where I was lacking. I needed to do a lot more, and I needed to be active. I needed to, voice my opinion. I needed to interact and network with people. So networking was one of my weaknesses, and this program helped me to focus on how to network and how to interact with people. So that was the difference that this program made at the very start. One thing I've realized that, and this is something that, is very important, and I've realized that, this is something that has been lacking in my life, is that I've never had a coach or a mentor. I did approach a person once, but then that person was relocating from the UAE back to the United States. So, he declined the request, and he said, I wish I would have loved to do it, but I didn't do it. And I've never really done that. The other thing that happens, Ibrahim, is that, once you reach a senior level, you do not go through this routine processes that, most organizations will have. Like, for junior people or for even mid-level people, you'll have psychometric assessments, you'll have tests and all that. At a senior level, they don't ask you to do that. So, it's just a verbal interview that you have. And so unless, you actively, proactively, like how I did it this time, I didn't even do it. I didn't even know that, this is included in the program. But when I did the first session, it was really interesting. I'd never done this personality test. So if I'd done that, I'd done them way back, maybe, when I was in college or something. That was like 20, 25 years back. And I'd probably forgotten everything and what I've learned that time. So after that, I had never done it. So this was an eye opener for me. This was now something that was scientifically telling me about my personality, about, my strengths, my weaknesses, that I never knew. And I never knew, how to then market those strengths, how to then present them, and how to then talk about them. So that was the interesting part of this session. Yes. So that's something I'm working on, and I realized that networking is important. I've heard of it in the past, but I never really took it very seriously. I would keep getting invited for these events, but most often I used to decline them. But now, that has changed. So now, when I go for events, I accept events. I go and speak to people. It's not just I go listen to a session, maybe say a hi and bye to the person sitting to my right and my left, and I come back. So that is something I've realized is critical, and that is something that, I realized is valuable, and that's the thing that I've learned. The other thing I learned from this program, Ibrahim, is the whole thing about artificial intelligence. I mean to say, I'd heard about it, I read about it, but I really never put it into practice. And I mean to say, the whole thing when Haitham started showing, how to use Chat GPT, how to use, how to get value out of it. That's something that's really, really valuable. I mean to say, in the past when I had to prepare something, I used to spend hours and hours, reading, researching, and doing things. Now I use artificial intelligence, so it's much faster for me. It at least gives me a skeleton of what I want to do, and then then I can build on that. So it's much faster. I mean to say, a presentation which would otherwise take me, I don't know, maybe a week, now happens in 2-3 hours. Like in the morning I started working on a presentation, and by now it's almost done. So otherwise that presentation would have probably taken me a week, because I would have to think of something, then I would have to read, I would have to research, then read through 50 articles to find out, okay. But that is something that is also very, very critical, and I've understood the value of that through this program. Yes. So Abraham, it's not always about a job, And this is what I was telling Haitham as well. It's about you being a person that you are. Do you know yourself? Like, I didn't know myself, and this program. Okay, the thing is that um, at one point, someone who was very commercially minded would have said, "Oh my God, I just signed up for this program, and some offer that I was working on has clicked. You know, can I find a way to withdraw from this program?" And that is what most people would have done. Probably contact them and said, "Can I withdraw out of this program because I found a job?" And I said, "No, it is not purely about a job. It's about understanding myself as a person." And so, even though probably after the first session, or I think it was after the first session, that this particular role that I was working on clicked, and it started moving forward, I still continued with this program, and I still want to complete this program, because I'm not looking at it purely from a job perspective. Yes, it does help you with your job, but for me, it helps me from knowing the person that I am, which I didn't know, and improving myself as the person that I am. So that's my focus, and that's my understanding, and that's what I'm learning from this. So there's a lot more I'm getting from this than purely finding the next job. Even the personality test that I did, Abraham, it showed me about it highlighted to me about the person that I am, or the things that I like, or the things that I'm not good at, or I could work on. And I started reflecting back, and I said, "Oh, okay, this is interesting." Like I never knew about it. I wasn't much focused about it, but now I know that this is the person that I am, and this is the thing. So even today, I keep getting mails from from that program that I did, and I read those emails, and it helps me as a person. So at the end of the day, your job is the person that you are. It's not different from your person. So you what you are is what you are, and it's reflected in your job. It's reflected in your relationships at home. It's reflected in your relationships with the community. And so the more you understand yourself, the better you will be in all these aspects of life. So for me, it's about understanding myself. It's not purely about a job. The job is one aspect of it, but I mean to say there's a lot more. That's the reason why I keep saying, there should be a program for people who want to understand themselves, not for people who are desperately looking for a job. You get I don't know, if there are 10 people in a meeting, you get 10 different perspectives to the same thing, versus your one perspective. Or even when you read it, when you even read something, or when you hear something, you will interpret it the way you want to interpret. You will not interpret it the way the other person is trying to put it across, or the author is putting it across. But when you actually listen from people, you listen from their perspective. So now you have 10 perspectives to the same thing, and then you can say, okay, that's something interesting. That's something that I didn't think about, but now this is a way that I could think in. And that's what happened in that session. I mean, I looked at it and I said, okay, this is something very interesting, and this is something that I'm going to do. So I get so many people on LinkedIn asking me for offering me services that are purely no use to me, but then I can always relate with them, interact with them, and then use them, or get them to help me to find something that I need in the future. So that relationship does not have to be purely something that is going to be of value to you today. It could be of value to you, I don't know, maybe 10 days down the line, or even 10 months down the line, or even 10 years down the line. And so those relationships count, and that's something that I got to know in that session. Yeah, so I'm sure that eventually I will get value out of these things, because now I know people from different domains, and that these people eventually sometime or the other could be people that I could reach out to, or I could probably learn from them. A lot of them publish articles, or the last week I think it was Afaq who made a presentation. It was a very interesting presentation. I mean to say, I learned a lot from it. And I said, okay, this is interesting. So he's a data analyst, and he showed how he analyzed data to find a job, and find the most critical requirements in multiple roles that he could then focus on. And that was interesting. So yeah, a lot of value in that. Those sessions are really good.